But like I said, unfortunately, I think that we are both going to be like equally on either side of this one line where we both want the same thing, but I am still so in love with this that I just can't be convinced.
What's up, everybody? My name is Natalie, and I'm here today with Tucker, and we're going to be talking about self-esteem. So I have this book here by Nathaniel Branden. He wrote The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. Have you ever heard of that?
Not of him, nor of the 6 pillars.
Okay, cool. So how do you think about self-esteem? Like, could you define it?
Self-esteem is kind of how much you believe in yourself and how much that you think you can accomplish. It's like the cornerstone of how you carry yourself and how you present yourself to other people.
Yeah, totally. And the way he defines it is like your reputation with yourself, basically. So, your reputation would be more based on others' appearance, but self-esteem is like you said, do you feel confident in your ability to like move the world and things like that? So there are 6 pillars. I don't want to go through all of them. I just want to touch on a few. The first one is living consciously, or it's the practice of living consciously. Is that something you're like aware of? Like, do you try to live consciously?
Kind of like another way of saying being present or living in the moment, or at least existing in, or at least like taking in everything that you're doing currently, or
somewhat like some of that, and also like your effect on the world and like how your actions affect others.
Yeah, I think whether I'm doing it consciously or not, everybody should be aware of the effect that their actions have. So I am trying to make sure that if I'm hanging out with people or if I'm doing something that I'm not negatively affecting the situation, and I guess at a bigger scale, in the world, I'm trying to make sure that that's like something that I'm thinking about. So definitely important, but I don't think I think on that too much.
Yeah, it's one of those things like maybe you kind of are aware of it, but it's not necessarily like at the forefront. And that's how like a lot of these things are. Right. And kind of going through the book is the process of like becoming more aware and that kind of thing. So the second one is self-responsibility. So taking responsibility for our actions. Do you think most people in the world do that?
That's a hard thing to do. I think it's a really hard thing to do, and I think everybody, myself included, always working on trying to make sure that you are taking responsibility. It's not fun, right? Usually that's like a negative connotation. It's also positive. So, just, again, it ties into the same thing, like being aware of what your actions have effect-wise on other people. No, I don't think that most people are actively thinking like, what is like me not cleaning up after myself going to do in the grand scheme of things, but it's also not something I think anyone can perfect. You just got to constantly think about it always. Yeah,
you got to always be bettering yourself and improving, right? Do you think the world would be better if people took more responsibility for their actions?
My instinct is to say yes, but I don't think I think it'd be a great step forward for everyone. I don't think it would solve any issues. I think a lot of them are just way too complex to be solved with like, my fault, I'm sorry, right. I'll try and do better. But yes, everyone could do better and the world would be a better place. It just probably wouldn't fix anything.
Okay, so the last one I want to touch on is personal integrity, and it's the idea of like living in alignment with your values. Do you think that that's important?
Very important to me. I know that everybody's different, but at least in my line of work, there's a couple times where I've had to make a decision between monetary gain and moral compass. Not a fun one to make, but it seems pretty easy for me. I understand that like there are some people that battle in maybe different situations where they're not as easily cut and dry able to make that decision between financial gain and maybe they need to, whatever. It's a complicated thing. But for me, morals are paramount. I think that it makes up a lot of who I am, and I think it makes up a lot of who everyone is. And if you don't know what somebody stands for, like, who do you really know them anyways? Yeah. So it means a lot to me.
That's amazing. So, I really liked what you said about kind of giving up, financial gain in the pursuit of morality. Is there anything else that you try to do, like, with morality in mind?
I try and be a little bit better at supporting things that I may not necessarily have thought of. I mean, obviously, women's rights and reproductive rights is at the top, and I've always been a big supporter of that, but that's just a very passionate figurehead issue. It's outside of that, like, what other things have I not thought about and lended my voice to, or at least like trying to take in everybody's perspective while also trying to make sure that it is everybody is getting the things that they deserve and the rights that they deserve. So I think it's definitely something I'm working on. I think everybody is, but like, it's hard. Not anybody's going to sit here and just understand everybody's plight. So all I can do is just, if you have an issue and you have a plight, or if you have something you want to talk about, I just got to listen and try and make sure that I'm more informed than I was prior to sitting down with you.
Awesome, cool. So I love how you touch on like women's rights. And today I'm talking about self-esteem, but I also want to talk to people about like animals' rights. Do you think that like animals have moral value?
Yes, I do believe that there's a fine line to walk, just in that everything should be done as humane as possible. But I also believe that as animals ourselves, like, we do have the right to consume animals in a reasonable way. Sidestep from that, I also do a lot to limit my own consumption, and like, I know there's no humane way to go about eating another animal, but like, I'm gonna be honest, I love meat so much. I'm going to do my best to do that, while also supporting, like, if we can make lab-grown meat happen now, of course I'm going to go for that. It's just we're not quite there, so how can I assist and not make things worse off than they are right now, while also still enjoying a little bit of the things that I like selfishly?
Gotcha. So it's something that maybe you would agree is not morally correct, but you still partake in. Is that fair? Or because you kind of said that it was moral, but then you kind of said it wasn't.
It's a tricky concept. Yes, I do believe that. I think that when you boil it down to extreme black and white, no, it's not moral. But I do believe nature is inherently not moral. There's like animals like ducks and cats that just literally like rape each other to reproduce. That's awful. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, yeah, I think that's pretty good, but we are the pinnacle of we're the apex of like animals right now, and so it's our duty to, like, if we can alleviate some of the issues that come with being that, like, the apex, it's our responsibility to do so. Strong protect the weak. Strong got to take care of the weak. But also, yes, I am absolutely going to eat a steak every now and then.
Yeah. So do you think that we are taking care of animals currently in society, like in the meat and dairy industry, or are they mostly just mistreated?
No. I mean, I think anybody who's watched a single documentary knows that it's not going to be a sustainable thing. I'm not going to lie to you and say that I'm going to sit here and think like, no, I should not buy a carton of eggs. I will be doing that. But there are steps that you can take whether you're looking for specifically sourced farms that are carbon neutral or humanely raised, where they're not inside, containment facilities. That is where I would like to focus on while we try and build up the more sustainable aspect. Because look, burning down rainforests to support cattle growth, that is never gonna be a good thing. Yeah. It's like a Sahara now, I think it's considered, but it's a little bit of like a small minnow moving against the tide. Best thing that I believe I can do, and the most useful impact I can have, is to slowly try and adopt myself and other people to a little bit more of a conservative way of consuming.
Yeah, so a couple things about kind of the labeling and the humane stuff. This is something I didn't really know before, is that they can pretty much put humane on anything, and they can put local on anything. So it's one of those things we can't necessarily trust. But I want to go back to the taste thing. Do you think like the enjoyment you get from the steak, does that justify what the cow goes through?
Yeah, I understand your angle for this, yeah. And obviously the answer should be no, but for me it is yes, because I am disconnected from that animal, and even I grew up across from a bison farm. So I do know that you can label things as humane, but as somebody who went over there and got to hang out on the farm and meet the animals, whatever, totally ate some of that bison. Delicious, but I got to see their environment that they're raised in. First of all, they would not be alive. They would be extinct in the first place. But I understand the concept. I understand that dance that you have to do. And that's why, like, where I've settled myself mentally, physically, morally, is I know that for me, just like somebody who enjoys cigarettes or somebody who enjoys alcohol or whatever, I know that one of my vices is going to be meat consumption. So if I'm going to understand that that is something that I will do and probably won't change unless we have significant... Like I said, lab-grown meat, hell yeah. Like, if we can do that, fine, but we're not there yet. So I have made that conscious decision to, give up that morality for that little bit of pleasure.
Yeah. I kind of want to touch on the alcohol, cigarettes example. To me, there's a difference in the situations. Like, I drink, I know that harms myself, but it's not harming others. Whereas if you are eating meat, I would consider it more than a vice, because it's not only affecting you, it's affecting that animal as well. But yeah, it seems like we're pretty much in agreement that it's not totally moral, but you want to continue to do it anyway. I will say that if we want lab-grown meat to exist faster, I think the best thing to do is start buying more plant-based meat, stop buying meat you can boycott, so we can show that we're serious about it. Because if no one's switching over, then they're not going to put as much funding in there as we should. I think it'll be around within the next probably 5 to 10 years. So you could essentially just be vegan for the next few years, and then lab-grown meat comes out, and you could enjoy it again, right?
Yeah, that is one option. And things have been really, really improved in the last 5 years with Beyond and Impossible.
Yeah.
I invested in Impossible when they went public, right? So I don't want to make it seem like, and you're absolutely right, if everyone decided to stop doing something and then we all decided to put our money behind something, of course, we would, in fact, solve this problem very quickly.
Yeah.
However, I'm a realist. I understand that's not going to happen. So what I am looking for is an equal trade where quite honestly, where I feel at least that I'm doing the bare minimum for me while also still not, still understanding that like my abstination is not going to be the single greatest pillar here. If I can convince a bunch of my friends to give up eating, I don't buy beef at home, right? Very bad for the environment. Like I said, but I will if I go to steakhouse. Like, yeah, once a month, fine, I'll have a steak. That was the small choice that I made, which was completely different from the last 3 or 4 or 5 years prior to that. And yeah, sure, helping my friends get on that same train, I believe, is very important. But like I said, unfortunately, I think that we are both going to be like equally on either side of this one line where we both want the same thing, but I am still so in love with this that I just can't be convinced.
Yeah, you just can't be convinced. Okay. Yeah, and I do kind of want to touch on the reducitarian model that you've said, which I think is better than not changing your behavior at all, right? But to that individual cow that you eat once a month, does it matter how many other cows you eat?
It's a tough question because I don't eat ground beef, and when I do, and I know this may seem a little bit like out of touch, but like when I do eat, if I am going to go eat steak, I'm going to make sure that it is a American A5 Wagyu, sustainably raised. Like I live in LA, very easy to find that. If you live in like Dayton, Ohio, I get it. You can't do that, or it may be more difficult. But yeah, for that specific cut of meat, that is just one cow, and I understand that I am contributing to that, but it's not like I'm not going to McDonald's and getting a burger, ever.
Because that would be morally wrong in your eyes? Or?
Nah, it's just not that tasty. And also, I've just made the decision to not buy beef if I don't need to. I still eat chicken, understand that's the same concept, but like, these are the choices that I have made and the choices that I'm also willing to make on the other side, and I think that's part of being human, is to know that like, that's part of being like upper apex, whatever. You're able to make that decision. A bird doesn't get to just choose what it gets to eat every day.
We do have the choice. We can choose to either, pay and exploit animals or not, which, yeah, it sounds like we are mostly in agreement. You're just mostly the taste thing. Yeah, which I totally understand because that's how I felt for a while. I will say that since morality is important to you, the biggest shift for me and my self-esteem was going vegan, because it was something that like I knew wasn't quite right, and when I stopped, I did feel like a lot better. So if that's inspiring to you in any way.
Cool. No, I have a bunch of friends that are vegan, pescatarian, all that stuff. I'm aware and well around it, but like I said, I'm pretty solid and made my own choice. So best I can do is hopefully share it with my friends and make sure that we both get there as fast as possible, because I would love to eat some like really identical, no harm animal meat.
We're going to have it soon. All right. So do you have any other questions for me?
No. Great to get different opposing opinions, and it's always nice to sit down with strangers. So thanks for talking with me.
Yeah, appreciate it, Tucker. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone who watched this 30-day challenge. It really meant the world to me to read your comments and hear your encouragement. And I'm just so grateful that I had this opportunity to speak up for the animals every day for the last 30 days. It's really incredible. A lot of people have been asking me what I'm going to do next. And I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna watch Office Space and just kind of zone out. It's gonna be awesome. As far as what's next for the channel, I'm gonna be taking a lot of the ideas from this challenge and expanding them, getting more interviews and doing things like that. But I do want to take a second to just encourage anyone who's watching this, if you're already vegan, to please become active, because we are, we're losing. We need to win. Animal agriculture is still huge. There's still so many people who don't know anything about veganism, and we really need to play to our strengths and try to get this movement, progressing as quickly as possible. So if you do want to do street outreach, please feel free to steal any of the techniques you saw in these videos. If street outreach isn't your thing, then I'm going to link a lot of stuff in the description. A couple channels that I think are really great that talk about different types of activism are No Injustice Lasts Forever and Vegan Pixie Warrior. So go ahead, check them out. And yeah, just remember that There's so many types of activism. You don't have to put yourself in a little box, but it is very, very important for us all to be doing what we can for the animals.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and become a patron today. If you missed yesterday's video, click to the left.